Only two men coached Essendon between 1940 and 1967. Dick Reynolds for 2 decades and John Coleman for 7 years. The decade ahead will be a period of instability for the Bombers. Footy fever strikes Melbourne, and Essendon is in the 1968 finals, coached by a favourite son in Jack Clark.
Midnight on a wintry Melbourne evening, and enterprising supporters camp outside Melbourne Cricket Ground to ensure their final series tickets on sale the following morning.
Still in the centre, in comes... magnificent! A hand pass across the Clark, he put Clark into trouble.
Jack Clark had captained Essendon's 1962 premiership team, which was coached by John Coleman.
Jack Clark, I have enormous respect for Jack. Jack really, I think, was a powerhouse intellectually with respect to football. Jack forecast football as it is today.
116,828 spectators pack every part of the arena, exceeding by 926 the previous record attendance in 1956 when Melbourne defeated Collingwood. In his initial coaching season, Jack Clark takes Essendon into the grand final. Ken Fraser, whom injury prevents from leading the Dons in what he claims was to be his final league game, is replaced by Strathmore High School boy Jeff Blevin.
On grand final eve, the Bombers caused a sensation by selecting a Strathmore schoolboy to play at full forward, lining up against Carlton hardman Wes Lofts.
There was always a Friday meeting in the final series, and we just turned up into the boardroom, I think it was at the time, and they just read out the team and my name was called out. I had no inkling of anything. So there I was, a schoolboy, thinking I was going to play in the reserves the next day, and instead was playing in the then VFL Grand Final. I think the Herald Sun ran with a story, Don's Select Boy. And then, you know, people had it plastered on their windows in the street and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that had actually happened to me during the season is that I was in the transition from glasses to contact lenses. They were the little hard ones, like your little nail on your little finger. And mine used to pop out. So one had come out, I'd gone to the club, we'd got another one had come out, gone to the club, got another, and they're about $25 each. And I thought, well, after the third one, what happens if they don't say, you know, we'll buy you another one? So I actually played a lot of the season in the reserves with one contact lens. And so in the finals and the grand final, I played with one contact lens.
Don McKenzie leads Essendon. They topped the table by 6 points after losing 3 of 20 games and drawing with St Kilda.
It was just a magic experience to walk in and see the colours on the change rooms and the nervousness. And I was, you know, obviously a new kid in the team virtually, even though you train all year. And I remember Alec Epis was fantastic at welcoming, and he was like a shadow that you had. And we ran out onto the ground, and honestly, to experience and explain what that's like over 100, I mean, there was 116,000 people there, which was then a record. It was unbelievable.
Roaming wide from full forward, Blevin is clear of Lofts. And
the first goal was that I was able to scramble off the ground when I think Wes Lofts ran over the ball and I was trailing behind him. It fell into my arms and I just looked and kicked and it went through.
And young Blevin in there, he takes it, kicks it goal. Look at this.
That was a bit of a circuit breaker for me, being nervous and all the rest of it.
Well, a beautiful beginning for this young fellow.
Displaying a remarkable competitive spirit, 17-years-old Blevin flies high behind Lofts to march strongly over a pack.
He chose not to stand next to me, he chose not to niggle me, he didn't do anything other than... I found out what my mother used to do at night time from him. I thought she was a normal, upstanding citizen, but according to him, she wasn't. So that was interesting for a 17-year-old.
The youngest player on the field, the lean 6-footer is also the lightest at 11 stone 4. He's proving worthy of his place in his first final. Blevin's second goal from as many attempts takes Essendon into a lead of 12 points to 7.
At half-time, Essendon trailed by 13 points, and young Blethen had captivated the Channel 7 commentators.
Fletcher steadies, puts his boot into it, drives further downfield. Here's a go. No, he couldn't be painted. But what a gallant attempt. And Collins kicks and puts it over the boundary line.
Geez, got Westloff's worried, I tell you.
But overcoming the attention of Walls and Lofts, young Blethen marks on his chest to seize a goal-scoring chance. The youngster who wears contact lenses is right on target for his third, bringing Essendon to within 6 points of the lead at 44-38.
The 68 grand final was Alec Eppis's last game. His final opponent was Alex Jezelenko. And Jeff Blethen, despite wearing just one contact lens, finished the match with 4 of his team's 8 goals.
Blethen marks in the pocket in front of Gilt. He's at an acute angle about 55 yards out and under enormous pressure. His kick could win the flag. The shot flies out of bounds. Carlton still lead by 2 points. The worried Barassi shouts out directions and Lofts kicks to clear the danger zone. The siren, and Carlton win the flag by 3.
Essendon went down by 3 points and became the only grand final losing team ever to score more goals than the winning team. It was Ron Barassi's first premiership as coach, and the high-flying Blethen soon came down to earth.
From a grand final on Saturday, I played with the local church team and opened to batting or whatever it is at some dusty old oval up at Tullamarine. School on Monday morning was no different. You walked in and, sat in the classroom, and what you did on the Saturday was, had gone, finished.
Giving everything he has,
Alec Epis enjoyed a colourful career. The Kookaburra was born and raised on the West Australian goldfields.
The club called me in and said, look, is there anything you've missed that we should know that you come to a new club, we want to make you happy? Is there anything that you want? And I said, well, look, over home at 3/4 time, Georgie Conan was our head trainer, and he'd come out with a bottle of whiskey, sherry and port in one hand and a packet of fags in the other, and you could have whatever you want. Oh, they said, you can't have that. I said, no, but I used to have a glass of sherry and I really liked it. They said, oh, no sherry. I said, well, I'm going home. I want me a glass of sherry, I'm used to it. They said, no, close the door, don't let him out. And so they wouldn't let me out. So I had to come back and sit before the committee, and that was fine. So they said, all right, you can have half a glass of sherry a game. Can you imagine that today?
Epis maintained a strong connection with the club.
We're an old-fashioned club, and I love that. I don't want it ever to change to become a pack of smart asses. There's always been good people that have been here willing to give their time, and that we've had some just really delightful players. But for me, not having any family here, the club is really like my family for me.
Blethen became a cult figure and favourite of Essendon fans, wearing glasses in most of his games. In 1972, he kicked 107 goals.
Ball now, stopping on in front of him, with a chance for Blethen. Blethen swinging back, straightens up, shoots at goal, and Essendon may have answered here.
Jeff Blethen was, he was just a real good mark, and a beautiful kick, and a good leader, and he could jump. He could stand, jump, on a player from the ground and on his shoulder. He was enormous.
With a short pass.
Alas, at just 21 years of age, Blethen left Essendon to work in Western Australia.
I had a job promotion, and the year that Peter Hudson did his knee at Hawthorn in the first game of the year against Melbourne, that really made me think how vulnerable you were as a footballer if that happened and your joy and love of sport was suddenly taken away from you. And when the job opportunity came to become a state manager of a textile company at the age of 21, I thought, well, I can go there, and if it doesn't work out, I can always come back.
We should have paid him more money, and I think Alan Hurd was always regrets that we didn't keep him and pay him more money.
In March 1970, 5 Essendon players made a really brave stand that would change the face of Australian football. Jeff Gosper, Darryl Gerlach, Don McKenzie, Jeff Pryor, Barry Davis all stood out of the last practice match over the issue of match payments.
I think one of the things that I think people don't realise is how much it took for those players to stand up, all of them. I mean, we all put a great deal at risk.
I was getting $20 a week. That was for everything.
We were at the front line, really, in grappling with this social change of who players were, what their expectations were, what was the nature of the change in the game itself.
Credit to Jeff Pryor, because he became the person who set up the Players Association with a couple of others. Credit to both the footy club and the VFL. They then looked at the issues and decided 2 and 3 years down the track that things had to change, and they did change.
We began to reflect an era of more intense training, more intense requirements to play football. And remember, we were still working at those days. We weren't really getting a great deal of money, and maybe there wasn't that huge amount of money in the sport at that time.
The Essendon players sowed the seeds of player power. And Jeff Pryor became the first president of the Players Association.
And a good mark taken by Closer. Hand pass, but Tottenham a long shot.
In 1972, Essendon had a new coach, an outsider in former Collingwood strongman Des Tottenham. The Bombers finished 5th under Tuddy in 1972 and 73.
And Essendon doing well from the pack.
And they had a huge signing from the West.
I came to Essendon in 1973 after playing the first 4 years of senior football at Claremont. Got to pre-season training in the early 73, it was as hot as hell. Tuddy was the coach, and we used to train at the showgrounds. In February at showgrounds, about 40-degree heat. In those days, Tuddy insisted that you weren't to have a drink of water from the time you got on the track till the time you got off, but there used to be a few reticulation holes in the ground, and if Tuddy wasn't looking, we'd grab a scoop of water to wet our mouths.
After making successive elimination finals, the Bombers slumped to 8 in 74 and 75.
It's a second goal kicked by Essendon's captain and coach.
The tipping point for Des Tottenham's coaching career came on the Sunday morning after a massive defeat.
And the umpire said, push to the back, so he takes the free goal.
Tuddy decided that we should get up close to the ground that we just lost on, so he got us to crawl on our hands and knees around the ground for a lap, which wasn't a big deal as far as the players are concerned, but of course the media picked up on it and gave him a bit of a hard time.
They had to get down on hands and knees and go right round the whole 400 metres on their hands and knees, twice. Do you think the players enjoyed that? I don't think so. And Jeff Pryor started it, I know.
He asked us to crawl around the oval, and I thought there was very little benefit in really trying to do that. But what it reflected was the deep feeling Tuddy had and frustration.
It was just one of those spontaneous decisions you make, and I was angry. I couldn't sleep all night, and I got to the ground and I said, well, right, you were on your hands and knees, crawl halfway today and let's get going again. That was a pathetic performance, and it was. But then afterwards, I said to Bob Syme, go down and get a couple of slabs of beer and let the players open up. And I sat back and let them fire at me, which was good. And we won the next 4 games.
They're all in. It's going to be, look at this going on out here. Quinton now in the scene. And Parsons going for his life. Didn't want to be in it. Players are laid out. People are laid out everywhere. One of the nastiest scenes I've seen in football for years.
My memory was that Jerker Jenkins had taken a mark in the forward line. Mel Brown had fallen to the ground. Mel Brown was standing over him. I think Jerker reached up and grabbed him by the testicles, and that started it. Mel Brown reacted.
We're just about to close down.
I think John Casson, who was sitting on the bench right near the incident, had a red dressing gown on. He raced onto the field and jumped onto Mal Brown's back, a bit like Superman. And then we started to come off the ground, and that's when a few of the officials got involved, and it was mayhem.
Mal Brown holding his hands up to the crowd. Is that the gesture of victory? I don't know whether it's good or bad.
I was on the half-forward flank, and I just walked to the rooms, actually. You know, next minute the trainers come running and said, quick, there's a brawl on. So I come running back out. It was just about all over then, you know.
Despite the violence of the era, Graham Moss won Best and Fairest awards for both the club and the league.
The fairest and best player in the Victoria Football League of the Essendon Club, Mr. Graham Moss.
In 1976, Moss became Essendon's third Brownlow medalist.
Got a great photo of myself and Bill and Dick, which I'm very, very proud of.
Moss's understudy in the ruck was an up-and-coming local lad.
Simon Madden had come on the scene probably in about 1974, 75. He didn't get much of a run on the ball when I was there, because in those days the number one ruckman basically rucked the whole game, and so he was stationed in the forward pocket. We did interact quite a lot, and I like to think that I taught him a fair bit about ruck work. I always joke with him that if I hadn't have gone back to Perth, then he wouldn't have gone on to the career that he had, which was an outstanding career.
13, my dad dies. And then you're sort of looking for what you're going to do with your life. And at 16, Tuddy comes around and recruits you. And so all of a sudden your male role models is a football club. And then you spend 19 years there, 19 years at Essendon, and it just shapes existence.
Yeah, there were a number of young players. Tim Watson, I think, was just around at the time. So I think Essendon were setting themselves up in the later 70s to go on to become the powerhouse that they became.
Back to half. Third mark over Peter Knights.
A highlight of the late 70s was this magical marking duel between Paul van der Haar and Peter Knights.
Enfield pick up to the half-forward line. Van der Haar and Knights. Van der Haar. Over there to Danaher.
In 1976, a boy from the Riverina named Terry Danaher started with South Melbourne, having grown up in the heart of rugby league territory. He played 19 games for the Swans, and after a legal battle, Terry and his younger brother Neil crossed to Essendon.
I was part of a deal with my brother Terry. South Melbourne was our zone, and we got traded, and Terry was the fish and I was the chips.
The Danahers became Essendon royalty.
We had some wonderful guys down at the club, blokes that were very successful. Ken Fraser, Dick Reynolds. I used to have lunch with Billy Hutchison probably once a month, but Jack Clark. All these guys that were always down at the footy club.
After 6 coaches in 14 years, the Bombers hadn't won a final of any sort since 1968. Essendon was looking for change.
We'd gone from carrying sandbags with Tuddy at the showgrounds at 5 or 6 o'clock at night to Bill Stevens' brilliant, pacey, run-on, handball, circle work that we did every night for Bill's whole time, to Sheeds' creative training.
Well, I've lost count of the number of times I've actually seen Sheedy in the middle of the pack on the ball, Jack. He doesn't give up, does he?
Kevin Sheedy played for Richmond because he lived there. His passion was Essendon. Only Sheeds can get us doing skills training, handballing, left and right handball, left and right kick, at 5 o'clock in the morning at the old Richmond Harriers in pitch black. Now that's the irony of Kevin Sheedy. He would train us that way and would get us to do skills, but we couldn't see, it was so dark. No wonder our skills improved.
In October 1980, Essendon appointed Australian football's first full-time coach. The Kevin Sheedy era was about to begin.